We are about to hear from Max Igan. He has had a long trip to get here today to join us to do this talk right here, right now. And this, as far as I know, will be his first time speaking in the United States of America, for whatever that's worth.
Max Igan was there in the beginning of my awakening. The Crow House was one of the first places that I ended up. And I listened to Max. Almost everything that he's ever recorded, I listened to. And I'm going to admit, some of it wasn't the easiest, because it made me aware that there's a surveillance state. It made me aware that there's a FEMA. It made me aware that, it just made me aware of stuff that I didn't want to be aware of. So to him, we owe a great debt of awareness, even though sometimes, as we all know, becoming awake isn't always an easy, nice, fun process. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Is Max here? Where is he? Is he hiding behind me? Max Igan. I'm so glad to meet you.
Hi folks, can you hear me? Should I hold this? Can you hear me all right? It's nice to be here. I'm here in body. I don't know if I'm really here in mind yet. I've just done 46 hours travel to get here from Peru, which is like 10 hours flight.
Thank you, Max.
So the airlines are really good. So if I get a little vague during the performance, or if I stumble and fall, just deal with it. So that's my website, thecrowhouse.com. I'm sure many of you know it. Is there a clicker here, or do I just click? This is the plan, right? Reality check. We are in for a reality check today, folks. I always like to stress that. So this here is a picture by a friend of mine called Adam Scott Miller, and what it's called is Wisdom's Dare, because that's what I believe life is. Life is wisdom's dare. It's daring us to be wise in what we do. And with what we've got here, with our time here, what is life? What are we here to do? I think we're here to be wise with the time that we've got, because I think we could create any type of reality we want. Now, we've got a beautiful world. We really do. It's a beautiful world. That's where I live. That's my world. Beautiful place, but it's a beautiful world. It's a very, very beautiful world. We, of course, are making some home improvements, which may not really be the best, I would suggest. We're kind of really going hell for leather with it. But really, we've got a choice, folks, whether we want this or whether we want this. And the problem is that we see this coming, we see this being created around us, and we look for those who created the problem to try to fix it. We go to our governments to try to get help. And they don't really help us. They help the guys who sponsor them, which is not us. And the problem with doing that, of course, like we vote people in, we vote people out. We even might want to try to form political parties of our own and get involved in the political system. But really, it's the political system that created all the problems. It really did. The only hope we've really got for this political system is to enter it with the idea of reducing it to the point of non-existence. We've really got to reduce government to the point where we don't need government at all. Sure, we've got to enter into the system possibly to do that. There might be some people who can enter in there with integrity and play by those rules and maybe make a difference, I don't know. But we've got to support those who do. But there's no good thinking that we're going to find the solution from government, because government won't help us. We can ask them for help. Sometimes they do give us help when we ask for it, but it's not always the type of help that we want. That's the problem. They're the ones that created the problem to begin with. We really start looking at this, folks, we find out they get off on this shit. They get off on it. They love what they're doing. It's just a big game to them. And the game is this. Of course, that's what they want to do. And that's what they are doing. And we, as a society, try to look at it, try to deal with it. We try to go to the government for help, and of course, we end up like this. That's what they do. You want some help? Okay, have some of these, have some medication, we'll look after you, it's all fine. That's what they do. But what we got here, folks, what we got is a system of people farming. That's what we have. People in and resources in, people out, money to the profiteers. That's the way it goes. And we all know how it's done, the education system. They turn creative thinkers into little drones. They send them out there, they get them caught in the credit trap. They teach them what to think. They end up in massive bills and stressed out, and they carry that debt around with them for the rest of their lives, and they sit back and pretend to enjoy it. This guy's having a great time. He's got everything he needs. He's got his remote control, his team's winning, he's got his chips, everything's good. He doesn't even notice he's chained to a wall of debt. And that's what we got, and that is the ultimate result. We forget that there's another way to do things. We just forget that there's a better way. But folks, we can create whatever reality we want. We really can. When I was 4 years old, I realised this. How many people here have heard me tell the story about when I was 4? I'll tell it to you again. When I was 4 years old, I was walking in the forest with my parents. I'd never been to the forest before. And I thought, this is really cool. I'm just going to hold this. It's messing up my mojo. Leaning over. I'll go to sleep if I lean over too much. So I was out in the forest with my folks, and we were walking around the rainforest, and I'm going, this is incredible. Look at this place. What are we living down there in the suburbs for? Why don't we come and live here? And Mum said, well, we can't come and live here. I'm saying, why not? Nobody else lives here. This place is great. I'm like 4 years old. And she says, well, we can't live here because we don't own the land. And I went, well, what do you mean own the land? She said, well, you've got to own the land, son. And I said, who owns the land? And she said, the government owns the land. And I said, how did they get it? And she said, you'll understand when you get older. And I'm walking around in the yard with my teddy bear after being in the forest that afternoon. I'm walking around with my teddy bear and I'm going, Teddy, it's all fucked up. I've been born into the wrong reality. These people think they can own the land. And I was walking around at that point, and I'm looking at my sisters, and I'm looking at my parents, and I'm looking at their friends, and I'm watching all this stuff they're doing. I'm going, this is all fucked up. I've been born into an insane asylum. And I just couldn't figure it out. And I had a terrible childhood from that point on. I just didn't get along with anybody. And then when I was 8 years old, I discovered the pyramids. And I got told that they didn't know how they were built. And then I put down all the Batman comics and all the Superman comics, and I was just into ancient history, trying to figure out how the pyramids were built. That was sort of my childhood. And then I got kicked out of every school that I went in for arguing with my teachers. I left high school halfway through the third year of high school, never got any education after that, and went out in the world and educated myself. I used to really annoy the teachers because I didn't do any of the classes. I wouldn't attend any of the classes, but I'd find out what all the topics were, and I'd go to the library and I'd read all the books, and then I'd come and do the exams and I'd pass the tests. And they really hated that. And then when I did attend the classes, I'd just argue with them all the time. You know, they'd say something, and I'd say, excuse me, I've just read a book on that exact subject, and what you're presenting the class with is the most commonly accepted theory on that subject. You should be presenting that as the most commonly accepted theory and giving us all the other theories and possibilities on that subject and letting us make up our own mind. That would be real education. And they used to hate it. So I ended up with my own desk outside the principal's office for my last 6 months of high school because no class would have me. And I was sitting there halfway through my exams in grade 10 and I just went, what the hell am I doing here? And I just walked out halfway through my exams and became a musician and travelled the world and never looked back. Had a great time. I thought, well, life is art, so I will do the art of my life, whatever that is. I will be myself, I will express my art, and I will see what happens, you know. And I got to travel around the world. I got to research all the ancient history and all the stuff that I wanted to research just by playing guitar. And if I wasn't doing that, I would have been sitting at home playing guitar. So I worked out pretty well, you know. And I've got all these people that used to sort of pay to travel around the world, and I used to get paid to travel around the world. That was pretty cool. I used to work about 5 or 6 hours a week and make more money than most of the other people were making because they were musicians, and we kind of had it pretty good back then before the industry was regulated, and the government got hold of that one too. But you know, back then I could see, you know, we create our own reality. And this reality that we've got now, we've created it. We've created it ourselves. All this mess that we're in, we've created it. Mainly by our preoccupation with other things, which is what this society is very, very good at doing. Giving us all sorts of stuff to entertain ourselves with, so we don't really pay attention to our life. Very often we're living other people's lives vicariously through the television set. You know, when you watch television, you know, you get these shows that you like, these people that you like, and these things that you like to identify with, and you watch that, and you watch these shows, and you feel at ease, and you feel comfortable that you've done all these things, but you didn't. You just sat there and watched it. And what's the one thing that people on the television aren't doing while you're watching them? Watching television. That's what they're not doing. Imagine if you turned on a real life TV show, you get a whole bunch of people sitting around watching other people on television. That's what our society is, folks. And we wonder why we're in the mess that we're in. We don't participate in the world. We participate in the television world. We think we know what's going on in the world without actually ever going out and seeing it, because the television tells us what's going on. And guess what? It's all bullshit. Every single bit of it. The world isn't like that at all. So they've created the reality for us. They've created our reality because they know that we create our own reality. Well, hang on. The nanny state will do it for you. We'll create your reality. We'll look after everything for you, and we'll keep you safe at the same time. We'll fix your teeth for you. We'll give you this stuff. This will keep you thinking clearly as well, of course. You know, fluoride is now registered as a neurotoxin. It's been listed as a neurotoxin by the Lancet, the world's leading peer-reviewed medical journal, has officially classed fluoride as a neurotoxin, folks. So you might want to ask your government what they're doing, putting it in your toothpaste and all this stuff. And all the stuff they're putting in your food. You know, what they're doing, this is how they're getting to us. This is how they're keeping people stupid. This is why people don't notice what's going on. People aren't getting nutrients from their food, GM food. If you really look at GM food, you find it causes sterility in 3 generations. All the animals that they've tested GM food on, it causes sterility in 3 generations. It's all about depopulation, folks. That's what GM food is about. They can give you food that looks good, tastes great, makes you big and fat, but doesn't give you any nutrients. Gives you all these cancers, gives you all these problems, all these thyroid problems, all these issues that you develop later in life. They're modifying the human race is what they're doing. And one of the big things they've done is ban this stuff. That's how they've really, really got to us, folks. I don't know how many people have researched this stuff, but this stuff is incredible. I research it all the time. I research it all the time, and I recommend everybody else does, because what's really wrong with the world is a massive cannabinoid deficiency. That's what's wrong with the world. That's a big part of it anyway. I'll tell you right now that there is no recreational use for this plant. There is only therapeutic and medicinal uses for this plant. It's not a recreational drug at all. It's mankind's companion plant. You know, you have an endocannabinoid system in your body, folks. Every single organ in your body has receptors to receive the cannabinoids that are found in this plant. You have them in every single organ in your body. If you juice the leaves of this plant, you just don't get sick. It keeps your body in balance. If you eat the seeds, it is the perfect food that you can live on entirely, just the seeds. It'll actually dissolve artery plaque. If you distill the oil out of it, the essential oils, the psychoactive oils, it'll cure just about anything. I have personally, on myself, cured skin cancer on my back with 1 application of psychoactive cannabis oil. 1 application. I had a guy last year come to me with the doctors had given him 6 months to live with throat cancer. Given up on him, 6 months to live. Came to me with a pound of weed that he'd grown and said, "Max, help me." I turned it into oil. In 3 months, he came back to me with a clean bill of health. Amazed all of his doctors. Cancer, not just in remission, gone. Ate itself and fell out of his neck. I've cured 2 lots of throat cancer. I've cured stomach cancer, testicular cancer, lung cancer, skin cancer, lymphoma, Lyme's disease. I've seen an autistic child showing an 80% improvement in motor skills from using psychoactive cannabis oil. That's what it does, folks. You've got an endocannabinoid system in your body to accept this plant into your body as your companion plant. You don't have an endo-lettuce system in your body. You don't have an endo-tomato system, an endo-potato system, endo-rhubarb system. You don't have an endo system in your body for any other plant except this plant. And when they banned this plant as being a dangerous drug because it's killed nobody, and if you put that in a time frame ever in recorded history, of course it's dangerous. It's dangerous because it causes people to become maladjusted to society. How's that? How's that? What did Judy Krishnamurti say? It's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. They don't want people smoking this plant because you get a businessman sit there after ripping the world off all day, go home and have a joint, go, holy fuck, what am I swimming in? You know, they want to quit the system. They don't want to do it anymore. They want to change the world. But this plant is a healing plant. It's our companion plant. And when they banned this plant, everybody started getting sick. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis. How many exotic diseases have we seen manifest in the world in the last 70, 80 years since they banned this plant? Everything has gone wrong with the human race. The pharmaceutical industry has just gone off the charts, profiting from people. Everyone's dying of cancer. You can cure cancer in 3 months with this plant, any cancer. I'm not allowed to say you can cure cancer, can you? You can cure cancer. This plant will cure cancer. Fuck the medical industry. But we're not allowed to use it. They've got better ideas for us. They can put medicine in the sky. That's what they're doing now in Australia. They want to spray lithium in the sky. Isn't that good? Keep everybody happy. Isn't it great? We're all happy. What's there to worry about? It's all good. Let's just focus on the light. There's no dark. It's all good. It's all happy. That's what they're doing to us, folks. What they're doing to our kids. The electromagnetic radiation we're swimming in. Everything they're doing and the way they've educated people lately. That's been really good as well. You know, because this is the world that they've created. This is the world we've let them create because we create our own reality. And this is the reality that they're creating. This is pretty good in this country, eh? That's about where we're going. You notice this too. That's been great, hasn't it? That's been great to keep us safe, to keep us protected. And of course, what you got is this, and the result is that is about the level of our freedom at the moment. That's about how close we are to losing everything. That's about the state of human consciousness, I think, at the moment. Although it is waking up. People are waking up. A lot of people are waking up. But how did it get this way? It got this way because people believe what the media tells them they believe. And even when we look at this, I'm trying to figure out where I was going with this slideshow, folks, because I did have some plans for it. But I'm very vague at the moment. And when we try to figure out where we're going with all this, they tell us to resist. Okay? Do you think we should resist? Form of resistance? I think resistance is a loaded term. Resistance implies something that is inevitable, that you must resist as long as you can. We'll form a resistance. We will resist this terrible beast that's coming. No, fuck the beast. We'll respond. No resistance, response. Full spectrum response. Okay? Shoot an arrow of love at the world. But what is love? What is love? Love is not fear. Love is the opposite of fear. If you really look at reality, I believe this is an emotionally based reality. It's a reality we create ourselves. We really do. And it's based on the electromagnetic emotion and the language of the heart that we speak all the time. Many people who listen to my shows will know about this. And it doesn't mean you've got to be warm and fuzzy. I'm certainly not warm and fuzzy all the time at all. But it's knowing the state that you're in, knowing that it's an emotionally based reality. And really there's only two spectrums and the extremes of those two spectrums, which is love and fear. That's it, really. You can call it black and white, up and down, whatever you want. Emotionally, it's love and fear. So really, if you're in a state of love, what are you in? You're in a state of not fear. That doesn't mean you're warm and fuzzy. It means you're not afraid to be yourself, not afraid to speak your mind, not afraid to be who you are. You know, but we're afraid to be who we are. Even when we try to address the system, we try to address the system, not the people within the system. Because it's just people. It's just men, just women, just people like you. Nobody has any more value than anybody else. But the problem is, you know, we see legislation that's put in place by the ministry of whatever, and we go for the ministry, not the person who sat in the office in the ministry that wrote the legislation. We don't have the not fear to go and talk to that individual. You know, we think, oh, you know, we're in a state of love, that means I've got to be all nice and gentle and all calm and all kind and all this sort of stuff. No, bullshit. Go speak your mind. Speak your mind, because if you're in a state of not fear, that's what you do. And if you're in a state of love, you are in that warm, fuzzy feeling for the people around you, then you need to be in that state of not fear to go and address the problem. Now, because we always put band-aids on symptoms for all of these things. You know, we see an issue that the government creates, like a mining company or a fracking well or something. We go to protest the well, which is good. We need to do that. We need to block the well. We need to stop it happening. But it's no good point really doing that and going protesting the mining company and doing all these sorts of things. We need to go and address the legislation that allowed the mining company to come and do what it's doing. Now, I had a great go with that in Australia, where I looked at coal seam gas mining as being affecting groundwater, and how groundwater is necessary for the security of our nation, being a spring-fed nation. So any threat to groundwater must be a threat to national security. So can the politicians who allowed this legislation to come into place please show cause why they shouldn't be held accountable for this attack against our national security? And they stopped that well within a week when it was put in that way, right? So it's addressing things in the right way when you look at all of this sort of stuff, you know. The warrior spirit, folks, that's what we've got to do, because that's what it's all about. The warrior spirit. The warrior is not afraid. The warrior stands in integrity, you know. And you can be in a state of love. It doesn't mean you've got to be warm and fuzzy. It means you're not afraid to stand up for what is right and do what needs to be done. Because if we don't, folks, this is where we're going. This is where we're going, and that's not real good if we're not already there. Of course, they're doing it. How have they done it all? They've done it through the war on terror, haven't they? That's how they've managed to get rid of all our rights and take all of our rights away. How they managed to bring on the police state and everything through the war on terror. And what's the war on terror? I had to put BB in there. And what is the war on terror, folks? It's just this. It's a chess game. That's all it is. You know, the whole war on terror is designed to do exactly what it's doing. And really, when you look at the war on terror, it's a war for greater Israel. And I'm sorry if anybody doesn't like that, but that's what it is. It's a war for greater Israel. And it's a war to take all of our rights away from us. That's what it is. So what we have to do is start thinking outside of the box, folks. What box? That box. We've got to start thinking outside of the box. And I put this slide in here. I'm trying to think why I put this next slide in here. But look, where they're taking us, folks. Has anybody here seen my film that I put out in 2012 called Transformation? Yep. That when I made that film, I kind of went right out on a limb with that film, looking at the transhumanist agenda. But it's really everything that I said in that film has basically been proven to be true. So, and that's where they're taking us, folks. There's this transhumanist nightmare that they're putting in place. If you look at Brave New World and 1984 and books like that, they kind of outlined it in those books, but it's even worse than that, what they're doing. When you really look at it, what they can do now, I don't know if anybody's been watching the news, what they can do now is they can manufacture fully functioning sperm in a lab using stem cells. They're doing this because, of course, the sperm count's down, so we need to do this. Well, why is the sperm count down? Because you're packaging all the food in plastic, which leaks estrogen into the food, which kills male sperm, of course. So it's all done by design, you know. So they're now able to manufacture sperm in a lab, fully functioning sperm, okay, using stem cell technology. And what they're also able to do, what they're working on, is artificial wombs. They call them ectogenesis chambers. So you think about it. Recently, in Australia, there was the food regulators or the health department, someone, I don't know, I'm a bit vague at the moment, but one of the regulators was looking into the food and found nanotechnology in the food. Why is there nanotech in popular sauces and dressings and cereals and stuff like this? And you can guarantee, folks, if it's in Australian food, then it's in American food. It'd be everywhere. So if there's nanotech in the food and they're spraying nanotech in the skies and they're putting in all these smart grids everywhere and you're an electromagnetic being and it all runs off electromagnetism, where are they going with all this? What if you can create human beings from the ground up? We all know what they're doing with chemtrails. Anyone seen any of Sophie's work, Sophia Smallstorm? Fantastic work. I've really got to give a little bit of a tribute to Sophia. She's a wonderful researcher and the work she's done on chemtrails is outstanding, it really is. I used a lot of it in our transformation. The RNA that they're able to create now, artificial DNA, DNA's chemical cousin, RNA, they're creating all of this sort of stuff. So what if you can create a human being not by just modifying us the way they were doing, the way I talked about in transformation, which is quite possible, which they're also doing. But what if they're able to do it from the ground up? What if you can grow your own human beings like they did in Brave New World, only from the ground up? So you can have, okay, here's our worker people, here's our scientists, here's our school teachers, here's our this, here's our that, here's our women that we breed just for eggs, for the ectogenesis chambers. That'd be about all you'd need women for, would be to harvest eggs. And of course they'd be bred to believe this was a beautiful life that they were doing and this is what they're for. And they have to be kept away from the rest of society to keep pure or whatever you want to do. Put them in a temple the way they did in the Roman days, the Vestal Virgins, all that sort of stuff. There's any way they can do this, but what they're able to do with this technology is basically eliminate parents. So you think about yourself, what are you? You're a combination of the waters of your parents and the waters of their parents and their grandparents and right down the line. Through ceremony and things that I've done in ayahuasca, I don't know if anybody's ever done that sort of thing, but ayahuasca isn't a drug. Ayahuasca is a medicine. It's an amazing medicine that can take you on a spiritual journey through yourself, through your past lives, through your incarnations, through your ancestors, all sorts of stuff. You'll find that the energies of your ancestors are still there in the spirit realm, and you can access that realm through plant medicine such as ayahuasca. That's really one of the benefits of that sort of medicine. And you find that you are the combination of all of the waters. Who you are, your soul, your personality, is the combination of all of the waters of all of your ancestors, because water has memory. Water has memory. You look at some of the work they've done with water, or water clusters, how it all works. Water remembers every emotion it ever experiences. Everything it ever experiences is encoded in the water. That's like the RAM drive of the planet. And the waters of all of your ancestors and everything they experienced and every emotion they had is all in that water that created you. What happens when you take that away? What happens when you create an egg and an artificial sperm cell and you create a new human? What is it? Would it have the same soul? Would it be the same as us? A robot. What would it be? It'd be a person, but would it be a person? And if you're growing these people yourself, where's the conscience with what you have to do with these people? You grew them. They're yours. So you see where they're going with all this. You see where they can take it. And when you see those who control this world, you think they'd like to do something like this? Damn straight they would. So you've got most of society gradually weeded out through all the diseases they're implementing and introducing, through all the drugs and the food and the fluoride and just the shit that they've got us subject to. And they gradually bring in all of these little things to fix the problems, like artificial sperm, because the sperm count's going down. We need ectogenesis chambers because too many women are having miscarriages now. And we want to keep our figure and all of this sort of stuff. So you promote that it's all about the look, the exaltation of youth. You can't get old, you can't get a wrinkle, you can't look like this beautiful person on the TV, or you're a lesser person. And if you weren't given all these parameters to judge yourself by, why would you judge yourself as anything but perfect anyway? Because you're all perfect. You all came here to be you. Every single one of you came here to be who you are. With whatever flaws you may perceive you have, you need those flaws, which aren't really flaws at all. They're just what you need to have the experience from that perspective, which is needed. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So you came here to be you, and with all of what you may perceive as flaws, and no one can be you better than you. No one. No one will ever have that unique perspective like you. You are absolutely perfect at being you and having that perspective. So why would you ever consider yourself to be anything less than perfect? Everybody. Everybody. There's nothing wrong with any of you. Anybody. Anywhere. So when you can have that and you can see that in yourself, then you lose that fear of being yourself. You lose all that. You suddenly do love yourself because you're here, and it's incredible. Just the fact that you're here. I really believe that this is a computer, a biological instrument, and my DNA is tuned to a certain frequency that plucks Max from the field. And I experience that one frequency of universal conscious through these eyes as Max. And you pluck another one from the field that you experience as you. But it comes from the same place. There's really only one of us here, experiencing the world from all these billions and billions of different perspectives. All of us, you know. And when you can really see that in yourself, all the barriers break down with people. Suddenly you can look at people and you can go, wow, what's life like from that perspective? Because you are me, in Lakesh. I say that in every radio show, in Lakesh, which means I am another yourself. We are all each other. And when we can respect each other and interact with each other in that way, hold no barriers with each other, just be ourselves, complete with all what we perceive our flaws to be, just be open. I mean, I wear my emotions like on my sleeve, folks. You might have heard that rant I did on the radio the other day. I have no problem showing my emotions at all. You know, but once I've showed them, I don't hate anybody, but I'm not gonna bottle it up. I'm gonna let it out and I'm gonna say what I want to say. I'm not gonna bottle it up, but that doesn't mean I hate anybody. I don't think I know how to hate. I really don't. I get pissed off, but I don't know how to hate. You know, so we don't want this world they're creating, folks. We don't want to be able to do, we don't want to let them do this, but this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing because we're letting them do it. And what will that sort of a world be like, folks? It'd be a great world, wouldn't it? But people will just go along with it because they believe anything. You can tell them anything. It's all good. Here's what's happening. Here's the news. New war on terror. But we don't talk about all this stuff. We see it happening and we don't talk about it. There's a lot of stuff that we don't talk about in the world today. And the nanotech and what they're doing and what they've done to our sexuality as well, all of this stuff, we don't talk about it. Sexuality is a very, very taboo topic, isn't it? But oh my God, look what they've done to that. You know, sex is as natural as sleeping or eating or breathing, but it's something that we don't think about, we don't talk about, it's taboo, you know. And you know, they put it in your face, so there's all these sexy people everywhere, but you're not allowed to think sexy thoughts. Don't think that, you're a pervert. You know, and then so everyone bottles up their emotions and they put all this porn there so people can go away and have all these secret lives. And they don't express their natural sexuality, so it divides the races. Look at the division between men and women in so much of the world today. So these men turning gay, all these women turning gay because they just can't get along with each other because no one can figure each other out anymore. You know, because what they've done to our sexuality because it's just so unnatural. But that's one of the things we don't talk about. And then the war on terror and what it really is another thing we don't talk about. But that's really what the war on terror is. As I said before, the war on terror is a war for greater Israel. That is the plan that you'll find out. If you ever really want to know what's going on, folks, go and read this book, okay? Read this paper, Oded Yinan's Strategy for Israel in the 1980s. It came out in 1982. And what it talks about doing is basically balkanizing the entire Middle East, splitting all the Middle East up into sectarian factions so that Israel will have to go out and basically calm the area and patrol the area and keep them all safe because it's the only democracy in the area, which is a load of shit. It's not a democracy at all. It might be on the surface. It might be if you're an Israeli, a Jewish Israeli living in Israel, then you're living in a pretty democratic situation. But if anybody else, if you're a Palestinian, it's not like that at all. So it's just interesting. And when you really look at it, it's not even, you can't even blame Israel. It's a mechanism. It's a mechanism that's being used to destabilise the world. And like I said, it's a multifaceted plan. It's not just about creating greater Israel, it's about locking all of the Western world down, or all of the world down into a police state as well. And if they can lock the world down into a police state, all Western countries, and keep us totally into this food that they're feeding us and gradually introduce this transhumanist agenda, then what do you think the Western society is going to look like in another 50 or 100 years from now? And they can do that to the Western world. They don't need to do it to the whole globe. They only got to do it to the West. Do it to America, England, Australia. They don't need to do it to Europe. Europe's fucked. Europe's gone. Forget it. Everyone here been to Europe? You've been to Europe? Too late. You missed it. It's gone. It's gone. Really, what they've done with the influx of migrants there, it's really, you're going to see a lot of trauma come to Europe in the next 100 years. Hope we might still be able to fix it if people can wake up in time. But Europe's pretty well gone. They're not even going to need to transhumanise Europe. They'll just turn it into this mishmash, which has been the plan all along. But the war on terror is basically this war for greater Israel, and that's how it's being run. You know, the Jewish lobby in America is how it's being run. That basically says it all. If you want to know what's going on in Europe, you can read this paper, the Kalergi Plan. This came out in 1932 or 1938, one of the two, by this guy Koldenhove Kalergi, and this plan basically calls for the genocide of the peoples of Europe by mass migration. Okay, this is 1930s. They planned this. Okay, and the goal is to just send migrants in there, send them rampant across Europe to breed, and that's what is this rape culture which is developed. Which is why you'll find a lot of pornography actually comes from Israel as well. You'll find that there's a lot of European women, Balkan women, who are taken out of the Ukraine and these places, believing that they're going to get babysitting jobs or nanny jobs and stuff. They're taken onto ships, they're taken to places like Turkey and Israel where they're sold into slavery. They're made to do porn and all sorts of stuff like that. This is spread out throughout the Middle East so that the Middle East guys get the idea that European women just like hard, rough sex, and they just send them into Europe to just go for it. And that's basically what's happening in Europe. The amount of rapes and things are just incredible. And it's about merging all of the people together. If you look at the plan, you look at the Kalergi plan, you listen to their own reports and the reports that come out of Israel. There was a woman, I can't remember her name, a couple of years ago who spoke about this quite openly on television, how that in another few years Europe will not look the way it does now. They will not have all of the cultures they have now. They won't have all of these different societies and all this sort of stuff. It will all become one race. They may not like it, but it's better for the larger plan, blah, blah, blah. And this is what they want to do. They basically want to turn the rest of the world into one race. So you can do that to Europe. You can transhumanize America and England, which is the way they're doing now. You can leave the third world countries, such as South America, for exploitation. You can leave the Asian countries for exploitation, mainly for human exploitation. You'll find out of the Asian countries, they've turned them into third world nations. And you'll find there's a lot of surrogate mothers and a lot of infants that come out of places in the Philippines and through Indonesia and Thailand that get sold into what they do with children. There's around about 20,000 children a year that are imported into just one state in Australia, into Queensland, Australia. So you can imagine what's imported into America, what's imported into England. A lot of these kids are from surrogate mothers that come out of places through the Philippines and Indonesia and Thailand and Ukraine. All sorts of places. There's a lot of human trafficking and child trafficking that goes on this planet run by these people. So you can see how the world's being set up and what they're setting up basically. They can control the species, they can breed what they want, and this is a long-term plan, folks. If you really look at this, it's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, but where it's going to develop over the next 100 years, it's just going to snowball if we don't stop it. And we're not going to stop it unless we call it and start putting down the fear and calling things for what they are and start addressing what these politicians are doing. And realise that there are things in place, there are things we can do in the world that can help us, you know, things like Palestine. I talk about Palestine quite a lot. And Palestine, I believe, is a key. It really is. I went into Palestine in 2012 with Ken O'Keefe. It was just freaky how that happened, how we went there. Like, I was just in England and I said, hey, Ken, you can get us into Gaza, let's go to Gaza. Ken's going, what the fuck do you mean go to Gaza? You can't just go to Gaza. I'm going, what the fuck, you got the key to the city, let's go to Gaza, you know. Okay, maybe I can do something. And we fucking went to Gaza. You know, crawled through the tunnels. We had to crawl through this tunnel, folks. It was this big, it was like this high, really on our hands and knees for like an hour, hour and a half, 50 metres underground, came out with like nearly our knees were bleeding. We were fucked when we came out of this tunnel, seriously. You know, we got near the end of the tunnel, and we were basically going, look, we've got to lie down for a while, you know. And there was this Palestinian kid. He was about, I don't know, he must have been 17, 18. And he just looked at us and he went, okay, give us your bags, give us your bags. He got my laptop, he got Ken's laptop, he got our luggage, and he just took off. And I'm like, this kid's an angel, you know. And we got through. We got into this tunnel, went into Gaza. And yeah, no fear, you know, no fear. But when I went there, it was just something that had been calling me for my whole life, Gaza. Just the name Gaza. It just had this thing for me. I don't know, I'm into Z's. I liked Frank Zappa when I was a kid as well. Big Zorro fan, you know. So, yeah, I just like Z's and Gaza. It just was calling me. And when I got to England, I said, I'm saying to Ken, let's go to Gaza. He's saying, what do you want to go to Gaza? And I said, well, how often am I going to be this close to Gaza with someone who can get me in? And Ken's going, what the fuck do you mean close? We're in London. I'm coming, I'll come from Australia, man. You know, it's fucking We're 4 hours flight from Cairo. It takes me 5.5 hours to fly to Perth from where I live. We're close, you know. So yeah, it was good, you know. But I just had to go there. And as soon as I got there, when I stepped on the ground, it felt like hallowed ground. I would move to Gaza in an instant if I could get there. I've been trying to get back in for 3 years. And I talked to the people there. I spoke to someone from Gaza yesterday. So I speak to them all the time. And I would go there and live there if I could. It's an incredible place. But what happened to the people in Palestine is absolutely shocking, folks, and it's a lesson for us all. There's a book I recommend that you read called The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine by Ilan Pappé. Incredibly brave man, incredibly good book, very, very powerful book. I recommend you read it. But they get away with it, folks. How do they get away with it? Because, of course, everybody who's born there is a terrorist. Bibi will tell you that. But we're told that Israel is under threat from the Palestinians all the time. You hear this all the time, the terrible terrorist attacks that Israel suffers. There's the real situation that's going on in Palestine. As you can see, it's almost gone. And if they defend themselves against this constant land grabbing that Israel carries out against them, they get called terrorists, they get shot, whatever. You know, you notice now that they're mainly kids. And you see people saying, oh, isn't this terrible? The Palestinians are sending all their children out to throw rocks at the tanks. No, it's because all the adults are just about being killed, folks. The age is reducing more and more and more in Palestine. The average age in Gaza Strip now is 17. There's 1.8 million people there, locked in collective punishment. The average age is 17. Think about it. It's child abuse. Not only is it collective punishment, it's child abuse. All funded with your tax dollars. It all go to Israel so I can do this. And the land theft in West Bank, it just continues. These bulldozers, these militarised bulldozers they use, and the weapons that they use as well, banned chemical weapons. But it isn't just the fact that they use banned chemical weapons and experimental weapons on the people in Gaza and Palestine. It's everything they do. These are some favourites that they used in the conflict in 2014. The aggression. I won't call it a war because it wasn't a war. It takes two armies to have a war, two militaries to have a war. It takes two countries to have a war. Palestine and Israel is actually the same country. So, but this is dime ammunition. Sends out micro shrapnel. Takes all the flesh from your bones but doesn't damage the furniture. I'm going to show you a couple of gruesome shots here, folks, but that's what it'll do to your legs. These are another favourite, flèche bombs. Flèche, they shoot these into a room. They have these little things in there that are this big, these little fluted pieces of metal. They come in creative designs as well. Almost impossible to remove. You shoot one of those shells into a room and it explodes in the room and just shoots those out everywhere indiscriminately, just covers the room in these little shells. This is what it does to the people. It's what it does to the children. These are the sorts of wounds that it does to children. These wounds are untreatable, folks. This is the stuff they were doing. This is Gaza in 2014. These are other things they like to use, folks, in these conflicts. Cluster bombs. You all know these, I suppose. Anyone who's been in the military knows cluster bombs. Wonderful, wonderful invention. That's what they look like on the ground when they're unexploded. Just lying on the ground, they're just lying around. So the aid agencies go, well, that's terrible, all these cluster bombs and all these people have been hurt from these cluster bombs. We better send aid packages in. And there's an aid package next to a cluster bomb. Go out and find the yellow packages, kids. Great stuff. There's the result. That's what your tax dollars are buying, but still the kids smile, you know. So why do they bomb Gaza and stuff all the time? Why do they carry out these attacks against Gaza? Why do they have the war in 2014? It's because Hamas send these rockets over to threaten Israel all the time, these terrible rockets that Hamas send over. These are the rockets that Hamas send over into Israel, folks. These are pipes powered with fertiliser that put a hole in your roof. One guy had a rocket go through the back window of his car. He was terrified, you know. And that's the difference. That's the aftermath of Hamas rocket attack on Israel and the aftermath of an Israeli rocket attack on Gaza. There's a bit of a difference there. And I would suggest, I really believe that half of the rockets that are sent over there are sent over by Mossad agents. I really do. This is a friend of mine, a friend of Ken's, standing on the edge of Shijaya district after they bombed it last year, not targeting civilians, of course. They don't target civilians. That's little Noor standing there down the left-hand corner. There'll be thousands of people buried under that. These are all the rockets that they send over, you know. They tell you, look at all the terrible rockets that they're sending over, but you've got them all on a rack there. They don't blow up. All these pipes, that's all they are. They're just skyrockets, folks. That's Hamas rockets, you know. But yeah, I went in there in 2012 and I had a wonderful time. We built a schoolroom for these kids. But the kids, folks, they've just lowered the age of arrest in Gaza as well, in Palestine, because like I said, all the parents have been killed. So, and it's got to the point in West Bank where the Palestinian parents can't even let their children go outside and play because the Israeli soldiers shoot them. They're just afraid they'll get shot. They can just shoot anybody they want now. There was a video I've got of a young girl at a checkpoint, 14 years old. She was trying to get through a checkpoint and they just wanted to take her and she was just there saying, I haven't done anything wrong. So one of the soldiers pulled out a knife, threw it on the ground. And you can see her start shaking at that point because she knows at that point that they're either going to shoot her as being a knife attacker or they're going to arrest her. And if they arrest her, she just goes into a black hole. There's been 4,700 people, I think it's 6,000 people arrested now in Palestine without charge or trial. Over 1,000 children that are held in jail. They've just lowered the age. Now they can arrest children 14 years and younger. They can arrest now and put in jail as terrorists, which they do quite constantly. Israel has actually killed one Palestinian child every 3 days for the last 13 years and gotten away with it. Nobody's done anything. Israel has arrested 5 Palestinian children every day for the last 48 years with your tax dollars, folks, and gotten away with it. Also, Israel is also one of the biggest harvesters of organs in the world. I wonder where they get all their organs from. That's Palestinian. That's a Syrian child found in a dumpster in Turkey. But that's what's happening, folks. That's what's happening in Palestine. And you know they do what they can to make light of it. You know, to me that's a beautiful picture. That's a beautiful picture. That just shows that we can even turn this into art. You know, and they're honestly some of the most beautiful, giving, caring people I've ever met. They really are. But Palestine's a key for us, folks. And Gaza's a key. And I've spoken about this so often lately because it's a key. It doesn't matter whether you support Israel or whether you support Palestine. It doesn't matter whether you're Muslim, Christian or Jew. It doesn't matter what nation you are. It doesn't matter what you are. Because what Gaza Strip is collective punishment and child abuse. And just about a month ago, 2 months ago, Turkey or someone did something. And someone in the UN said, oh, you can't do that. The Geneva Convention's still in force. I said, great, great. Because I've been saying that for years. Because according to the 4th Geneva Convention, collective punishment is a war crime. End of story. It doesn't matter that Israel's been using flèche bombs. It doesn't matter they've been using white phosphorus. It doesn't matter that they've been kidnapping children. It doesn't matter they've been bulldozing homes. It doesn't matter all of the war crimes and things they've been doing. Just the fact that Gaza Strip exists, just the fact that it's there, is a breach of Article 33 of the 4th Geneva Convention. It's a war crime. That means every politician who supports it is a war criminal. Do you realise that every politician in the United States who got funding for their election had to sign the AIPAC Treaty? You know what the AIPAC Treaty is? It swears a pledge of allegiance to the State of Israel. Every single politician that signed that treaty is a war criminal. So what makes any legislation they've written valid? You know, Mr. Obama, hey, you're not my president, but if I was lived here, you want to bring in whatever it is you're bringing in? How is that legislation valid? How is any of the fucking legislation you people are bringing in valid if it can be shown that you're a war criminal? Do you support the State of Israel? Bye. You're a war criminal. Simple as that. Can you show cause why you should not be held as a war criminal? Can you show me how your legislation is valid if it can be shown that you are a war criminal, which it can, under your own legislation? I don't even believe in all your bullshit law. It's all bullshit. It's all just stuff you wrote down on paper and we have to go along with it. But okay, if it's going to be real, if you're going to tell me that your law is real and your paper actually means something, Well, here's a piece of paper called the Fourth Geneva Convention that says you're full of shit and you're a war criminal and that everything you've enacted is invalid. And we need to address that point before we can even address the validity of the legislation you're asking me to apply to, obey and apply to my own life. We need to look at it that way because they're all war criminals, every single one of them. And that's the key that we can use to do it. If you want to stop the coal seam gas well in your area, well, the legislation that allowed that gas well in the area was probably enacted by a war criminal because he probably signed the APAC treaty in order to get his job, which means he pledged allegiance to a foreign power to begin with. So how the hell is he even allowed to hold office in this country? And I say that about America because America is unfortunately leading the way in this because it's a puppet state like everywhere else. America has been created to be a war machine for the elite, under the threat of terrorism and the threat of keeping the freedom for the people, but it hasn't done that, America's gone out and put bases everywhere and stomped on everybody under the guiding hand of those who control Israel, and the people of America think, oh, we're doing it to protect ourselves, but it's not like that. I think everybody here knows that, But what's the key? What's the way out of it? I really believe it's Gaza Strip. I really do. I think Gaza Strip is the key for humanity, and if we don't save Palestine, then the way of Palestine will be the way of the world. Because what we see in Palestine is a mechanism of surplusing and warehousing human beings. That's what it is, folks. That's what they're doing, and that's what they're doing all around the world, warehousing and surplusing human beings. That's what all the FEMA camps are about. That's what this whole thing's about, and they just run these experiments. But they put it right in your face. They use Gaza to test all their experimental weapons, and Israel has to have Gaza there, has to have these terrible terrorists lurking at its borders in order for it to receive all the funding it gets, in order for it to go and stomp on the Middle East the way it's doing. But it's a key. It's a key for us all to do it. If we could get out of this state of fear that we're in, of being too afraid to talk about it. Because of the whole thing that's been constructed around the state of Israel, this whole anti-Semitism, the Holocaust, all this stuff that's been cooked up and concocted around this state, so this state's able to get away with everything, and you can't speak out against it because if you do, you're anti-Semitic. But you find out that these people aren't even Semites. You're not even Semites. The Semites are the Palestinians. All the Semitic people in the area. Most of the people who run Israel are from Europe. They're not Semites at all. So we've got to get rid of that, folks. We've got to embrace the warrior spirit. We really do. There's a way through this. There really is. I mean, like I said, the legal system is fiction, but it's there, and it's a mechanism we can use if we're sensible about it. So if you had enough of the population, you imagine if the whole community stood up and said, hang on, our country is supporting open war crimes. And we're not being anti-Semitic. We're not worrying about Palestinians and Israelis or something. What we're talking about is the 1.8 million people, average age of 17, and the child abuse that our government is funding. And we're not going to support a government that's funding this type of child abuse. We're going to strike. We're going to do whatever. We're going to just down tools and stop. I've been calling for a day of non-compliance since 2008. I'd really like to see that. Imagine a day where we all stayed home and did nothing. Imagine if nobody spent 1 cent for one day. This whole system would crash and burn, folks, in one day. It would. It may not sound like much, but it would. It would make an incredible difference if everybody just stopped complying with the system, refused to spend money for a day, and I think that would really inspire people to want to do it a little bit longer and to actually really see what we could achieve. And I've been trying everything to unite the people. I've been trying the Amazon, I've been trying Gaza, I've been trying everything to unite the people. But we've got to do something. We've got to realise that there are mechanisms in place with this system, as corrupt as it is. There are mechanisms in place that we can use to do it. Because like I said, it's wisdom's dare. That's what it is. And I'm sure that if we do this, we're going to find that there's even people in the law enforcement community that are going to want to join us. I think you're going to see a lot of people breaking ranks. Who's the law enforcement here today? Who's the NSA here today? Come on. Come on, I know you're here. Oh, I don't believe you. Come on, I know some of you's here. Come on. There's no way you're going to have this lineup of speakers here without having some infiltrators. I know you're here anyway, but hey, you can join us. You can join us. We don't hate you. But this system's going down. It's going down. And you're going to find that there's people that realise that they're living on the wrong side of history. because there's a huge awakening happening. But we've got to be prepared to face it, folks, and we've got to be prepared to confront it. We really do. We've got to confront it because warriors confront the evil that most people refuse to acknowledge. That's why we can use Gaza. That's why we can use all of this stuff to heal the world, because its wisdom's there. What sort of world do you want to create? We can create anything we want. We've got so much potential. We really have. We've got so much potential. I really believe that our creative potential is off the charts, folks. I really do. I really do. But I created a project last year called the Full Circle Project. One of the biggest problems we've got, I believe, is that we don't have support groups around us. I meet so many people. I have so many people write to me and say, I'm awake. I don't know anybody in my area to talk to. Can you help me with someone to talk to? Do you know anybody in my area? So I created this thing called the Full Circle Project. I'll find there it is. The Full Circle Project. And like I said, I'm a bit vague, folks. I'm stepping in and out of myself here. But with the Full Circle Project, you can go and log onto this site and you can create a profile and it will pinpoint you on a map. Won't put it on your house, don't worry, we don't want to know where you live. Just put it in your general area. Then you can do a search for people in your area. Okay, I want to form a support group, I want people to talk to. So do a search in a 1 mile radius or a 2 mile or a 5 mile or a 10 mile or 20 mile, up to 30,000 miles. Do the whole planet if you want, but it's not really local. So you can find a group in your area and form an action group or form a support group. So you've got people to talk to. Find like-minded people. And the same with everybody here today. I mean, we come to these groups, we come to these talks, and we think we've made a difference because we went to see all these great speakers. But everything you've learned from all these people here this weekend, you need to take it home and apply it to your life. Get involved in your community, Don't just think that by coming here it's made a difference. I mean, it has. You've come and got information, but you all need to link up. Link up and connect. Get addresses from everybody. Anybody you find, just connect eyes with them, get their address, get their email, connect with them, form action groups in your area. What I want to see with Full Circle, what I'd like to see, is people like to form an action group and then identify an issue in your community. There's going to be something that pisses everybody off that the government's doing. Just name it. There's lots of stuff. Just find it and then go and address the problem. But don't go and put a Band-Aid on it. Look at that problem, that thing that you're pissed off about. It's a symptom of a larger problem, which is systemic corruption. So you've got to deal with the systemic corruption. So find that local issue that you've got, that everybody's pissed off about, and then empower them to go and approach the local politician and get that person to show cause why they should not be held accountable for the problem they've created. Don't put a Band-Aid on the symptom. We see homeless people, we go and build shelters for them and give them food. No, we need to address the legislation that created the homeless situation. You've got problems with your education system, you start homeschooling, well, that's great, but how about going there and addressing the legislation that's created this ridiculous education system? Because it's not what we want. But don't be afraid to be yourself. Call things as they are. Stop being politically correct in what you do. Put down all political correctness. Political correctness is a form of tyranny, folks. Political correctness is you policing your own thoughts and not saying what you actually feel and what you actually believe. Fuck that shit. Just be polite and eloquent. It can be incredibly insulting by doing it. I'm very good. I've developed it into an art form on the radio shows, I tell you. So you've just got to be, just be very, very direct and realise that you're just speaking to people. These guys are actually your employees. They're not your bosses. It's only because they've controlled the education system for so long that they've talked everybody into believing that we actually need them and that they're actually our bosses. But they're not. They're our employees and they're doing all sorts of stuff that we simply don't employ them to do. So we've got to really start looking at that, folks. But the Full Circle Project is a way you can do that. It's just a mechanism you can use to start an action group in your community. There's over 15,000 people signed up to it now. So there's a lot of people getting involved. So please do, it's something anyway. And it's a way of networking so that you can find out what everybody's doing, find out what action works. And if you do something, if you mount some local action in your area and you form some little action group, go and post it and let people know what you did so they can do it and mimic it in their community. And just share all this stuff and get to know people. I've had a lot of groups contact me. There's a lot of people forming groups. They're making a difference and they've got support groups. They've got someone to talk to which empowers them. Because that's a really big thing, that we don't have like-minded people around us. We're out there educating people all the time. We're trying to educate people. We don't have that support, that one-on-one, and we need that. So do try to get involved in the Full Circle Project, folks. But, you know, we can embrace the warrior spirit and we can deal with this system. We really can. I think this is an incredibly important time for humanity. I really do. I think that all of these problems that we've got are opportunities. I really think this is one of the greatest opportunities for freedom we've ever had. I really do, because everything's laid so bare now. You know, never before in history has the system been laid so bare. But of course they've trapped us in many ways as well, which is what the internet's been about. It's great that it's linked all us up. I mean, I wouldn't be here talking to you if it wasn't for the internet. We wouldn't have all the information we've got if it wasn't for the internet. But by doing that, they know where everybody is now. And I think that's why they've made a lot of these terror events so obvious, really obvious, like 9/11. I mean, shit, really. This was so obvious, folks. A lot of people saw it on the day. I did. People looked at this building going down and going, nah, it's all fucked up. You know, like I was when I was a kid. I've been born into the wrong reality. This can't happen, you know. So I think they've done this just to see who's awake, who's aware. We've got all these networks, all these Alex Jones type groups that have gone out there and pumped all this stuff out there. Fear, 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 fear. There's all the awake masses. We can pinpoint where all these people are, segregate, separate. And the way they've done it with YouTube and all the search engine results and stuff. Now you notice YouTube's had that much has changed in the last few years. Now you only get what you watch recommended to what you, these are the things that come up in your search results. It's based on what you've already viewed. So people that are always viewing mainstream stuff, when they search the truth, they don't even get it. It doesn't even come up in their search results. You know, so they've really, really managed to separate things. And now with all the new laws they're bringing in, they can start, you know, doing this sweep, you know, data retention and all the stuff they're doing. So it's been kind of a wolf in sheep's clothing in many ways as well. 5? Really? 10? Really? Really? Seriously? No, it's all right. I thought I'd only been speaking for about half an hour.
How about another 2 hours?
Time flies when you're having fun. But where was I? I was interrupted. But it's been a wolf in sheep's clothing. And what they've done with the internet, by mapping search engine results, so what they've got is they've got a map of the human terrain. They know how everybody thinks, because your search engine results don't just give them an idea of what you're searching for, it lets them know what you're thinking. So they know what mankind is thinking. So we've got to really see what we're up against, folks. We've got to step into the warrior spirit. Well, there's so much more I was going to say. I go off on these tangents. But we've got to step into the warrior spirit. We really do. Put down the fear. That's such a big thing. That's what love is putting down the fear. You know, I love all of you, but I love me as well. And I'm not afraid to love me, and I'm not afraid to be me, and I'm not afraid to speak my mind. If I upset people, I'm sorry, but I don't hate you. If you piss me off, I'm going to tell you pissed me off. But hey, I'll buy you a beer after that. It's all good, you know. That's what it is. We don't hold on to this stuff. You shouldn't hold on to it, because it's our belief systems. It's holding on to all this stuff and forcing our belief systems on everybody that's caused all these problems to begin with. You know, I often say to people, be careful what you believe, because belief is the enemy of knowledge. If you really believe something, then you won't learn anything from that point. You'll have locked yourself into this little belief, and you're only going to accept that knowledge which reinforces that belief. Don't believe anything. Be open to everything, but don't believe any of it. Consider all, believe nothing. You know, that's really... That's an important part. And even when you come to these talks with the speakers and everything that I've said to you today, hey, is everything that I've said to you true? I don't know. It's my perspective. And it's the same with everybody who speaks to you. All the speakers that you listen to, all the gurus that you admire, what they are doing is offering you their perspective based on the information that they've looked at and what they've figured out would be going on, and they're offering it for your humble consideration. Don't believe it, consider it, because it could well be true. Consider all of it. But you find that if you believe little bits, I've looked at this, looked at gnosis and I believe that bit, and I've looked at this and I believe that bit, and I believe this bit, suddenly you've got all these little beliefs and all these conflicting beliefs, and you go mad. You go crazy. You do, and I've seen it. You know, the path to knowledge is a dangerous road, so be careful what you believe, because it's the path. It's about the path, and it is the path to discovery. You might find out what's really going on after the experience. Me, I'm still figuring it out. The only thing I can be an authority on is this, and I'm still figuring this out. Well, think about this figured out. I'm still trying to figure out this. This is an interesting thing. Well, maybe this. There's two of them, isn't there? There's two of them. But if we do that, folks, we can create whatever reality we want. We really can. Our creative potential is off the charts. But don't just go home thinking that you've made a difference. Link up, network with each other, and take all the information that you've got out here home, and don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to take this system on. Bull it a gate. Just go for it. Go for it and call it what it is. And call these politicians out for what they are. Don't be politically correct, and realise you're just dealing with people. They're just a frequency of consciousness like you. Nobody's special. Nobody's any better than anybody else. If they are, then we're all special. That's just the way it is. That slideshow seems to make its way into every talk. I don't know how it gets there. I try to leave it out, but it just seems to make it. So I guess that's it for me, folks. So my name is Max Igan from thecrowhouse.com. There is a question, and thank you for coming in Lakesh.
Max Igan, you're so wonderful. So, one question, everybody. If water has memory, why are we flushing our shit down the toilet with water? Right?
Shit's good stuff. We grow garden. We got these composting toilets in the Amazon, folks. Shit's good stuff. Shit's good stuff.
So composting toilets I wanted to mention. And then is there one other thing before we let Max go I'm curious about, which is, everybody raise your hand who's going to do that full circle project? I mean, every one of us is going to do that, right? Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure of that. So can we throw out search engine decoys? In other words, is there a way on the internet that's able to... Start page.
There's the Tor browser. You can use the Tor browser, which is an anonymous browser. I recommend everybody use the Tor browser. It's a little bit slow, but you can use it. There might be other ways. I mean, I'm not... Huh? Start page? Okay. But it's still metadata and stuff, you know. They're monitoring all search engines. They have been for a long time. That's mainly what they're about.
Max Igan, thank you so much for coming this far for us, and we love you so dearly.
Max.